The invisible staircase between worlds, shortcut 1, frequency folding. There's a hidden staircase between dimensions, but it's not made of stone or light or anything you can touch. It's made of frequency, and most people never see it. Not because it's invisible, but because they're vibrating too low to even perceive its existence. The truth is, reality isn't solid. It's layered. Like an ancient temple hidden within another temple, each level more refined, more expansive, more sacred. The third dimension is where most of us live survival, identity, fear, ego. The fourth is the realm of time, story, and transition. But the fifth is where truth lives. It's where consciousness becomes creation. It's where thought bends reality, where intention sculpts matter, where the universe listens before you speak. But to access it, you must first fold your frequency. And that's something only the dark chosen ones are trained to do. And not because they're better, but because they've walked through the fire of forgetting and chosen to remember anyway.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
Frequency folding is not about escaping the 3D. It's about mastering it so completely that it bends around you. The dark chosen ones know how to shift their vibrational state so precisely, so rapidly, that they can collapse timelines and access 5D awareness in moments of stillness. And I don't mean daydreaming. I mean real, measurable shifts in energy, perception, and manifestation. You've probably seen glimpses of this without realizing it. A moment where everything feels hyper-real, where time slows down, where you just know something before it happens. That's not fantasy. That's you brushing against the fifth dimension. But you didn't control it, did you? It just happened. What if I told you that you could learn to enter that state at will? That you could train your nervous system to become a tuning fork for higher consciousness? That's what folding frequency is. It's not magic. It's mastery. And it starts with one thing: radical stillness. You see, the 5D doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your state. And your state is shaped by your vibration. Not your mood, your vibration. Your baseline resonance. This is why the dark chosen ones spend years mastering silence, solitude, shadow work. Because until your emotional field is stable, you can't hold 5D energy without short-circuiting. Most people try to manifest from chaos. They try to bend reality from a place of desperation. But the fifth dimension doesn't respond to force. It opens like a lotus when your inner frequencies match its song. So the first shortcut is this: stop chasing, start tuning. Learn to sit with yourself until the noise dies. Learn to feel your body as electricity, not flesh. Learn to breathe like a being who knows they are more than human. In that space, folding happens. Time bends, opportunities appear, and you enter the realm where thought becomes architecture. But only if you've done the inner work to stabilize your signal. Ask yourself this now: what if the reason you haven't accessed higher realities isn't because they're far away, but because they're waiting on the other side of your own noise? What if the veil isn't something you break through, but something you dissolve with presence? Think about that, because presence is the real secret. And that's why the dark chosen ones don't seek the fifth dimension, they become it. When you fold your frequency, you don't leave this world, you overlay it with a higher one. You start to notice how reality responds to you differently. People react to your energy before you speak. Synchronicities explode. Time becomes fluid. Your dreams bleed into waking life. And suddenly you realize, I'm not just in the world, I'm shaping it. But none of this starts with doing. It starts with being. So be still, be silent, and listen not with your ears, but with your vibration. That's when you'll feel the first step of the invisible staircase unfold beneath your feet. The Mirror of the Void, Shortcut 2, Quantum Shadow Integration in 5D Realms. If folding your frequency is the key to accessing the fifth dimension, then the next shortcut is about what happens once you're inside. Most people think the fifth dimension is all love, light, and endless bliss. And yes, it can be. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud: the light is only pure because it's been forged in the dark. And the dark chosen ones know something most spiritual seekers avoid. If you bring your unintegrated shadows into the fifth dimension, they don't disappear. They amplify. They become mirrors so clear, so flawless, that you will see every fragmented part of yourself reflected back with divine precision. And this is the second shortcut: quantum shadow integration. Not in the old way of healing, not by journaling or talking through your wounds for years, but by meeting your shadow in the 5D mirror, where time collapses and healing can happen in a single breath if you're willing to face the void with open eyes. The void is not emptiness. It is fullness beyond form. It is the space where your unhealed parts float like echoes waiting to be reclaimed. In 3D, you can hide behind distractions, trauma, stories. But in 5D, there's nowhere to hide. The moment you step into that field with your frequency folded, the mirror activates. And it's not symbolic, it's alive. You may see yourself in other people. You may have dreams so intense they feel more real than waking life. You may have spontaneous emotional collapses, where decades of suppressed pain rise and dissolve in minutes. That's not breakdown, that's quantum correction. The dark chosen ones use this mirror not to punish themselves, but to purify their field. Because the more shadow you integrate, the more light you can hold. This is why some beings walk into a room and shift the entire frequency without saying a word. They've done their inner work in dimensions most people don't even know exist. But how do you use this mirror? How do you integrate a lifetime of wounds without being overwhelmed? The answer is presence again, but presence on a quantum level. This means you stop identifying with the pain and start observing it as energy. In the fifth dimension, emotions are not personal. They are patterns. They are fields of information. When you learn to observe your own shame, anger, fear not as part of your identity, but as frequencies to be alchemized, you gain access to power that most never touch. You realize that your shadow isn't the enemy. It's the raw material of transformation. The dark chosen ones were not born without pain. They were born through it. And they learned to use the 5D mirror to upgrade their entire being in ways that defy logic. They don't run from darkness, they merge with it. Not to become it, but to liberate the light trapped inside. So here's the second shortcut. Don't wait for healing to come to you. Go where the healing lives. Enter the fifth dimensional mirror with courage. Sit with your shadow like it's a teacher, not a threat. Ask it what it wants. Ask it what it's protecting. Ask it what it's here to teach you about your own divinity. And then listen, not with your mind, but with your field. Healing in the fifth dimension isn't about fixing, it's about remembering. Remembering that you were never broken, that your wounds were initiations, that your pain was a portal. And once you integrate your shadow in the quantum field, your entire reality begins to reflect your new state. Relationships shift, health returns, synchronicities become constant, and you no longer fear the dark because you realize you were the dark all along, and you were never separate from the light. Ask yourself now, what if the part of yourself you fear the most is the exact key to your highest dimensional expansion? What if your most painful moment was actually your most sacred teacher, wrapped in shadow, waiting for permission to become light? The dark chosen ones know this. They don't avoid the void. They become the void and find themselves reborn within it. That's the mirror. That's the work. That's the second shortcut. And it's waiting for you. The gate of instant reality hacking. Shortcut 3. Time collapsing through identity death. Now we arrive at the most dangerous, most liberating, and most misunderstood shortcut of all. If folding your frequency is how you enter the fifth dimension, and using the void mirror is how you purify yourself within it, then the third shortcut is how you become the architect of reality itself. And that shortcut is not found in any book, not taught by any mainstream teacher, not even fully understood by most who walk the spiritual path. Because it requires something terrifying, the death of identity. Not metaphorically, literally, not in body, but in self. The version of you that was built to survive the 3D must be dismantled so completely that even your name, your story, your desires feel like someone else's memories. And in that space, when nothing remains but awareness, you gain access to the gate. The gate of time collapse. The gate of instant reality hacking. The gate where you no longer wait for things to manifest. You become the frequency of the outcome, and reality bends to meet you. The dark chosen ones use this shortcut not because they're fearless, but because they've already lost everything false. They've watched their ego die screaming. They've let go of every story that once made them feel safe. And instead of rebuilding another mask, they chose to remain empty, clean, available. And from that space, they became dangerous to the matrix. Because when you no longer need anything from the illusion, you can rewrite it. That's the essence of reality hacking. You don't bend reality by thinking harder, visualizing more, or manipulating timelines. You bend it by no longer being the version of yourself that was bound by its rules. When you die to your identity, you collapse the time between desire and manifestation. Why? Because in 5D, time isn't linear. It's responsive. It follows your frequency, not your calendar. And once you become the version of yourself who already has, already knows, already embodies the outcome, then the outcome must arrive. It has no choice. because you're already living in the future frequency, now. But how do you kill your identity without losing your mind? That's the razor's edge, and that's why this shortcut is reserved for those who have done the inner work. To kill the identity means to surrender every label you've clung to, your name, your trauma, your successes, your failures, your nationality, your gender, your beliefs. Not to disown them, but to see them as temporary garments you wore in a dream. When you let all of it fall away, you encounter something terrifying and beautiful, pure awareness. No story, no past, no future, just consciousness. And from that state, you can choose any identity you wish consciously, precisely, like a sculptor choosing their next masterpiece. Imagine waking up every day and selecting who you want to be from the quantum field. That's not fantasy. That's reality in the fifth dimension. But it only becomes accessible when you've released the need to be anyone at all. So here is the final shortcut, and it may be the hardest to hear. You must be willing to die to everything you think you are. Only then can you truly become who you were meant to be. The dark chosen ones walk this edge daily. They live in constant death and rebirth. They don't talk about it, they embody it. You'll know them not by their words, but by their silence. Not by their power, but by the way reality shifts around them without effort. They don't chase. They become. They don't wait. They collapse time. They don't manifest. They transmit. And when you stand next to them, you feel it, the field responding to their presence, not because they forced it, but because they became the command center of their own reality. So I ask you now, as deeply as I can, are you willing to die to the version of yourself that never belonged to begin with? Are you brave enough to let go of who you thought you had to be, to become the one your soul has always been waiting for? Because this is the gate. It doesn't swing open for the curious. It opens for the surrendered. And once you pass through, you will never be the same. You won't need permission. You won't need proof. You will be the proof. You'll speak, and the world will shape itself around your words. Not because you're special, but because you finally remembered you were the architect all along. This is the third and final shortcut, the one that ends time, the one that removes distance, the one that makes miracles a lifestyle, not a surprise. But it requires your death, the death of your false self, the death of your linear thinking, the death of your limits, and in its place, rebirth. As a being who walks between worlds, speaks in frequency, and shapes reality with presence alone. And now that you've heard all three, the only question left is this: will you return to the illusion, or will you step through the gate and never look back? Because the shortcuts are not for the chosen. They're for the ones who choose themselves. The ones who walk through the fire, meet the void, and rise with no name, only power, only presence, only truth. Becoming the architect of all realities, you are the shortcut now. If you've made it this far, something in you already knows you're not on earth just to survive. You're here to remember. And not just remember who you are, but to remember what you are. You've now been shown all three of the sacred shortcuts. You've learned how to fold your frequency to access the fifth dimension. You've stood before the mirror of the void to integrate your quantum shadow. You've touched the terrifying gate of identity death to collapse timelines and reprogram reality itself. But now, there's one more truth, one more layer, one more secret that's not really a secret at all. It's just been hidden in plain sight. You are the shortcut. You are the portal. You are the door that opens the realms. Everything you've been taught to seek has always been waiting inside your own field. The dark chosen ones don't just use shortcuts. They become them. They walk this world as living access points to the divine. And so can you. Let's go deeper. Once you've folded your frequency, integrated your shadow, and died to your identity, something strange happens. You stop trying to escape this world and instead, you begin to see it as your tool. The fifth dimension isn't a place you visit anymore. It becomes your lens. You see through people, through systems, through illusions. You recognize the code underneath the chaos, the patterns beneath the pain. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer manifest, you transmit. And this state of being isn't temporary. It becomes your new baseline, a place you live from, not reach for. And when you live from that level of consciousness, life rearranges itself around you. You walk into a room and the energy changes. You speak and people feel truth in their bones before they understand your words. You become a mirror, a catalyst, a glitch in the matrix. Not because you're trying to be anything, but because you're finally being no thing. But here's what most forget in their quest for spiritual power. The real mastery isn't in what you can do, it's in what you can withstand. Can you hold your center when reality begins bending? Can you stay calm when your old life begins collapsing to make way for the new one? Can you remain silent when your ego wants to scream for control? Because once you begin living as the shortcut, you'll trigger resistance not only in others, but in yourself. Your nervous system will try to revert. Your mind will reach for old identities. Your emotions will cycle through fear, doubt, and loneliness. Why? Because you're no longer anchored in the collective field of unconsciousness. You've stepped out. You've unplugged. And that level of liberation comes with a sacred responsibility to walk with presence through the unknown over and over again. The dark chosen ones don't avoid this. They bow to it. They know that every new level of light requires a deeper descent into silence, into stillness, into surrender. So how do you stabilize this new state? How do you keep from slipping back into the dream? The answer is simple, but not easy. Discipline in the unseen. Not discipline as in force, but as in devotion. Daily tuning of your field. Daily remembrance. Daily embodiment. You become the shortcut by becoming the practice. That means you breathe as if the universe listens. You speak as if your words shape timelines. You move through the world as if every step is a ritual. You don't need incense and mantras to be spiritual. You just need consciousness. Because everything becomes sacred when you show up in your full frequency. Washing dishes, answering emails, making love, walking through the city. Every act becomes a spell. Every moment becomes a portal. This is the life of the dark chosen ones. Not loud, not flashy, but electrically real. They don't need to prove anything, because their presence proves everything. So now I ask you, with everything you've remembered, what will you do with this knowing? Will you go back to sleep, pretending you didn't hear this transmission? Or will you recalibrate your entire life around the truth that you are the portal, that you are the shortcut, that there is no more waiting, no more seeking, no more asking for permission? You've walked through the gates. You've seen the mirrors. You've stood on the edge of identity. And now you get to decide, will I live as a God in human form? Or will I keep pretending I'm small? Because the world doesn't need more gurus. It needs you. Awake, activated, anchored. You are not here to fit in. You're here to break the template. You're here to walk through the fire, speak into the void, and choose yourself completely. That's what makes you dark chosen. Not because someone gave you a title, but because you remembered who you are when everyone else forgot. And that's the final transmission. You are the shortcut now. Live accordingly.